You wake suddenly. Panicking, you realise you can't move. You can't speak. Wildly, you look around the room before seeing a dark figure moving towards you. Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button to be alerted to future creepy content. Today's ghost type is the Shade. As always, we will find out where these entities come from, what their purpose is, and talk about any encounters with this ghost. But first, I would like to see what law Phasmophobia has on this ghost before we find out the truth. A Shade is known to be a shy ghost, and evidence suggests that it will tend to stop all paranormal activity if there are multiple people in the vicinity. Its unique strengths. Being shy means a Shade is harder to find than any other ghost. Its weaknesses. Conversely, a Shade will rarely start a hunt when players are grouped together. So what is a Shade? Where does this entity come from? The term Shade was first used in ancient Greek times in literature and poetry. Translated from Greek Latin, a Shade is the spirit or ghost of a dead person residing in the underworld. The belief of the people with regard to a future state was in the Homeric age a sad and cheerless one. It was believed that when a mortal ceased to exist, his spirit tenanted the shadowy outline of the human form it had quitted. These shadows, or shades as they were called, were driven by Hades into his dominions where they passed their time. Fast forward to more modern times, Shades, unlike a lot of ancient entities, are still around and spoken about, though Shades in today's society are called shadow people. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you were being watched? Maybe you were sat watching TV. Maybe you were reading a book or drawing, when all of a sudden an uneasy feeling washes all over you. The hairs stand on the back of your neck, and it feels like someone or something is in the room with you, even though there is only you in that room. Then, out the corner of your eye, you think you saw something move. As you turn your head to look, it's gone. Perhaps you wake in bed and look around the room. You see a figure. Panicked, you close your eyes and open them to see it has vanished. You are not the only one there. There are thousands of stories online about this happening to people from all around the world. Shadow people can appear in many forms and may even indicate that someone may be under a psychic attack. Many experts agree that the presence of shadow people is wholly unsettling. Most reports of shadow people are negative and accompanied by a feeling of dread. So what can you do if you see a shadow person? Experts say it is normal to fearful if you see one of these entities, but it is best to focus on staying grounded and not to let yourself be overwhelmed by what you are experiencing. If you encounter a shadow person, the worst thing you could do is to give this entity your fear. Entities with negative intent thrive off of your fear, so remain positive if you ever have an encounter with this entity. One of the most feared and common forms of the Shade is the Hatman. The Hatman is a completely dark and evil entity. Hatman wears a long fedora or type of long brimmed hat. Hatman also appears to wear a type of trench coat. Some encounters say he has bright red eyes with no face showing at all. Now guys, I have a chilling tale. Let me take you on this chilling journey. Michael, a man from Australia, would never forget Christmas of 2002 when he was 8 years old. It was the height of summer and Queensland was experiencing something of a heat wave. Michael had woke up several times during the night, his body covered in sweat. Michael didn't know what time it was when he had this experience. There was no clock in his room, but Michael knew it was after midnight because everybody in the house was in bed. The house was still and quiet, so quiet that he could hear the muffled sounds of his mum and dad snoring in the other room. After taking a sip of his water, Michael turned onto his back and just laid there, staring at the ceiling. He remembered the heat being troublesome, but he was so excited for Christmas Day. Michael had asked for a GameCube that year, and the prospect of opening his presents was more than he could bear. Christmas was just 2 days away. Michael started contemplating which games he would play first, when a slight movement in the peripheral vision caught his attention. To the left of Michael's bed was his window. The curtains were open, and directly outside was the top of the porch roof. Michael didn't see what had moved, but when he turned his head, there was nothing there. He wrote it off immediately, but as he laid there, it happened again. And again, when he looked, there was nothing there. It was as if someone was outside, just hiding behind the edge of the window frame to the left. After the 4th or 5th time of it happening, Michael decided to just lie still and try not to look at it. His head was angled though, just enough so that out the corner of his eye he could make out a figure standing outside. After a few minutes, the dark figure would start to walk back and forth in front of the window. Michael remembers whoever it was dressed like Dick Tracy. He couldn't see any features. Everything was just black, silhouetted against the lights outside. As he got out of bed to close his curtains, he heard footsteps running across the porch roof, which stopped when he looked outside. By the time he was awake the next day, he had forgotten all about the strange figure, and in fact didn't think about it until years later. When Michael was in college, a friend lent him a book on strange phenomena, and in it was a chapter on shadow people. As Michael started to read the chapter, his mind was immediately taken back to that night years ago. Michael started to realize that he may have seen the Hatman, but what disturbed him more were the implications attached to seeing this entity. When Michael went home, he told his mother about what he had seen when he was younger. He wanted to ask if anyone had died in the family around that time, but before he could speak, his mum said, "I wonder if he was there for Emily." Emily was his friend from next door. She had died in her sleep somewhat mysteriously on the 23rd of December that year. As you can tell, guys, the shade/shadow people are not something to joke about. Whether you believe or not, millions of people from around the world have experienced this entity. So remember, that thing you think you saw at the corner of your eye when you're alone may just have been a shade waiting for you. I would like to thank you all for watching. If you're into live jump scares, head over to my Twitch for more fun content. Link is in the description. And until next time, guys, stay spooky.